Hello, my name is Omar Foster and this is my talk presentation. My real life situation is how it has recently been discovered that some dinosaurs have feathers, and from that most paleontologists say that birds are the closest descendant from dinosaurs. Before this, it was argued that all dinosaurs were cold-blooded reptile-like creatures and reptiles were the closest descendant from dinosaurs because it was the simplest answer. From this, I have created my knowledge issue of to what extent our perception detract our understanding of the natural sciences. We assume that nature is regular and understandable because we have created a theory that we are evolved from animals and therefore those animals must have some of our traits. We assume that dinosaurs were the dominant terrestrial vertebrates over 230 million years ago. We assume that there was a mass extinction and few dinosaurs survived, and from that we assume that some of our living animals today are descendant from dinosaurs. But how do we know this really? We have no first-person knowledge. Scientists look where they expect to find, and when they see, they interpret from a biased view of previous knowledge. We accept dinosaurs as truth because it is the simplest explanation. Occam's razor is the principle that we choose the simplest hypothesis that makes the fewest new assumptions. Dinosaurs are believed to exist because that was the simple explanation for the millions of fossils under the earth. But many of these fossils aren't actually completed, and it's from our observations of animals today that we create the huge database of what a dinosaur looked like. Some are perceived to have feathers because it is believed that they had the muscles that allowed flight. There have been fossils found with feathers perfectly preserved though, and because of the previous knowledge, birds being descendants of dinosaurs, this theory has gained great credibility. If there was a mass human extinction, what would the next dominant species, when they evolve enough, make of our history? They would use their own perceptions to find out about the history of our Earth. But the odds that they would interpret the correct situation is next to impossible because they do not know the culture or context of human existence and would have to assume from their own history and compare it to our own. Many philosophers argue that we cannot know that the world even exists outside ourselves. All we know is our view of it. We can't say if any of it is real. From this table in front of me to the whole universe, it is only real in our own minds. Because of this, science has to use perception to gain knowledge of what we perceive to be true, but with amazing care so that the world's population can agree in our understanding of a common world, only assuming it exists outside our sense interpretations, of course. The axioms of science supposedly make it clear for most scientists to only come up with one answer, because it is what they have been taught to do. But what if our axioms are wrong in the first place, and that we only see scientific discoveries as correct because we have been told time after time that these axioms are right? Once upon a time, there were a group of trainee doctors who were told to listen to a beating heart, and succeeded in hearing it. However, the instructor then revealed that their stethoscopes were stuffed with cotton wool and actually heard nothing. This is an example of expectation influence upon perception. Do you see how because we know the axioms already, we may be being influenced into the wrong answer? Also, every experiment has a degree of uncertainty because our own presence creates uncertainty. When we do experiments, we are helped considerably into that response which could unfortunately be sending us in the complete wrong direction. An explorer who went against the axioms of the time was maybe the most influential voyager in history, Christopher Columbus. Back in 1492, it was a common conception that the world was flat because religious scholars said it was. And in some circles, it was regarded as blasphemous if you were to disagree with this theory. Anyways, Columbus wanted to find a quicker, safer route to India, but expected to encounter humanoid monsters on the edge of the world, and found it incredibly hard to find a crew that would travel to the beyond limits of the Earth. As soon as he saw mountains disappearing on the horizon, he should have realised that the Earth couldn't be flat if this kept on happening, and discarded his common theory that the Earth was flat, but he didn't. When he hit land, he tried to find these monsters because that is what he believed, and persisted by asking the Native Americans about monsters. Of course there were no monsters, but the miscommunication between Indians and Columbus's crew meant that he made his own interpretations which reflected his hopes and beliefs, and in his notes there are descriptions of monsters throughout. Columbus may sound foolish now because we know the truth, but in that time it was considered correct because it was correct in the context of his beliefs. What this shows is that prior beliefs and teachings are what drive us forward in a search for knowledge. As a baby, it is perceived that they are sponges, and that they learn anything from their surroundings. And as we grow up, we are supposed to figure out what is right and wrong as we go through life. But from my previous point, can it be argued that if we are not taught right in the first place, that our future will be bleak and dismal? Is this the reason why so many youths are marauding in the streets with no idea of their consequences of their actions, because they don't have an idol in their life to teach them right from wrong? The natural sciences are the search for knowledge about the world we live in and its history. Scientists search for the truth. They test it against the patterns that they have already been observed in the past, because that is what they perceive to be right. Can this be considered a help or a hindrance to our understanding of the human sciences? It can be considered a help because to test for the truth, scientists examine the world and find their evidence through their sense perceptions or technological extensions of the senses. It is essential that every time a phenomenon is observed, the same results should be obtained. For example, Galileo's observations of the motion of the pendulum. He found out that the time period of a swing is approximately controlled by the amplitude or width of the swing, and this can be tested anywhere around the world and should come up with the same results. However, no scientific statement can be called true, as it has to be possible to falsify them. These statements must also be in tuning with other scientific statements that have been proved correct, so that all science is consistent, which is understandably fair. But what if our main axioms was wrong, such as E equals mc squared? It has recently been suggested that E does not equal mc squared because at the Large Hadron Collider, neutrinos have been travelling slightly faster than the speed of light. It has been tested over 20,000 times before it was reported, and still it was regarded as false because of the axioms of science had flowered so many new scientific statements. This raises another knowledge issue. To what extent does history hinder our understanding of the natural sciences? Because the history of science tells us not to believe in this, as everything derived since Einstein's theory could now be considered wrong. Many people in the public didn't believe that neutrinos could be faster than the speed of light either, as they have been taught this concept since birth. Since faith in religion has flustered since the Middle Ages, people have had to believe in something else, and people have put their faith into science and believe it no matter what. You could say that science is now the modern religion. But the implications for the future could be extraordinary. Science fiction could finally become science fact. I am not saying we could have a modern day superhero like Wolverine or Spider-Man, but we could travel back in time and find the truth about the past. Peter Medawar once wrote that scientific theories start off as the imaginative stories, and it is how the knower perceives and interprets them with the data that is collected. An example of an imaginary story is Schrodinger's cat. For avid watchers of the Big Bang Theory, they will know about the story of Schrodinger's cat. There once was a scientist named Schrodinger, and he had a cat. In layman's terms, he placed this cat in a box and placed a flask of poison that would randomly go off, but without opening the box, the cat is both alive and dead. Until we open the box and we make that observation, the cat is either dead or alive. From this, it shows that unless we observe an action, we do not know whether the action has occurred. So how do we know whether dinosaurs existed? None of our generation was there. None of our whole species was there. Paleontologists say that because we found fossils, we can recreate specific dinosaurs and everything about them. We are even now able to discover the colour of dinosaurs through the pigments in the fossils, thanks to technology. And more information is getting discovered, as shown by this clip.
Our Incredible Planet on the BBC. A decade of scientific discovery has unearthed a new world of dinosaurs. Vicious new killers that towered over the T-Rex. South American giants 6 times heavier than the Diplodocus. And skybound beasts that terrified the pterodactyl.
However, most fossils found aren't even completed, and our dinosaurs are created by using assumptions and our prior knowledge of animals in our kingdom now. In every observation, we cannot remove our presence and or our perceptions. Because of this, the butterfly effect of the chaos theory will ultimately limit and distract our understanding of the natural sciences until we can look inside the theoretical box, which is 85 million years in the past. Do we really know what dinosaurs are, or are we just making assumptions using Occam's razor, where the simplest answer is usually the correct one according to the axioms we know, and presenting them as fact?